He went out from there. He came into his own country, and his disciples followed him. When the Sabbath had come, he began to teach in the synagogue, and many hearing him were astonished, saying, "Where did this man get these things? And what is the wisdom that is given to this man, that such mighty works come about by his hands? Isn't this the carpenter, the son of Mary, and brother of James, Joseph, Judah, and Simon? Aren't his sisters here with us?" So they were offended at him. Jesus said to them, "A prophet is not without honor except in his own country, and among his own relatives, and in his own house." He could do no mighty work there, except that he laid his hands on a few sick people and healed them. He marveled because of their unbelief. So it sounds like the people closest to him can't see how important and great he is. That is relatable. He went around the villages teaching. He called to himself the 12 and began to send them out 2 by 2, and he gave them authority over the unclean spirits. He commanded them that they should take nothing for their journey except a staff only, no bread, no wallet, no money in their purse, but to wear sandals and not put on 2 tunics. He said to them, "Wherever you enter into a house, stay there until you depart from there." Yeah. "Whoever will not receive you nor hear you as you depart from there, shake off the dust that is under your feet for a testimony against them. Assuredly, I tell you, it will be more tolerable for Sodom and Gomorrah in the day of judgment than for that city." I don't know if I like this part, Jesus. What are you saying here? "Whoever will not receive you nor hear you as you depart from there, shake off the dust that is under your feet for a testimony against them." I mean, that just seems like a rude gesture. "Assuredly, I tell you, it will be more tolerable for Sodom and Gomorrah in the day of judgment than for that city." What happened to Sodom and Gomorrah? Because I feel like threatening to do worse than that to the whole city is a little fucked. But, things were different back then, I guess. I don't know. This seems fucked no matter what. Jesus, stop it. You were doing so good. They went out and preached that people should repent. They cast out many demons and anointed many with oil who were sick and healed them. King Herod heard this, for his name had become known, and he said, "John the Baptizer has risen from the dead, and therefore these powers are at work in him." Others said, "He is a prophet, or like one of the prophets." But Herod, when he heard this, said, "This is John, whom I beheaded. He has risen from the dead." For Herod himself had sent out and arrested John and bound him in prison for the sake of Herodias, his brother Philip's wife, for he had married her. For John said to Herod, "It is not lawful for you to have your brother's wife." Herodias set herself against him and desired to kill him, but she couldn't, for Herod feared John, knowing that he was a righteous and holy man, and kept him safe. When he heard him, he did many things, and he heard him gladly. It is not lawful for you to have your brother's wife. And I guess his brother Philip was still alive at the time, so that is kind of fucked up if Philip isn't cool with it. Then a convenient day came that Herod on his birthday made a supper for his nobles, the high officers, and the chief men of Galilee. When the daughter of Herodias herself came in and danced, she pleased Herod and those sitting with him. The king said to the young lady, "Ask me whatever you want, and I will give it to you." He swore to her, "Whatever you shall ask of me, I will give you up to half of my kingdom." She went out and said to her mother, "What should I ask?" She said, "The head of John the Baptizer." She came in immediately with haste to the king and asked, "I want you to give me right now the head of John the Baptizer on a platter." The king was exceedingly sorry, but for the sake of his oaths and of his dinner guests, he didn't wish to refuse her. Immediately the king sent out a soldier of his guard and commanded to bring John's head, and he went and beheaded him in the prison, and brought his head on a platter and gave it to the young lady, and the young lady gave it to her mother. When his disciples heard this, they came and took up his corpse and laid it in a tomb. I don't like that the daughter of Herodias just had to dance for the king, and then he's like, "Whatever you want, I'll give it to you." I understand that is realistic, but I don't like it. I wish we had better people in positions of power who didn't just abuse that power. And her mom has no chill, does not fuck around. She said, "Give me a head," and she got a head. I don't know why. I don't know if John deserved that, but they didn't like him because he was trying to threaten their family situation, I guess, even though they seemed like a pretty fucked up family. And I don't know how John the Baptist disciples got his corpse, but they did, and they put it in a tomb, I guess. The apostles gathered themselves together to Jesus, and they told him all things, whatever they had done and whatever they had taught. He said to them, "You come apart in a deserted place and rest a while." For there were many coming and going, and they had no leisure so much as to eat. They went away in the boat to a deserted place by themselves. They saw them going, and many recognized him and ran there on foot from all the cities. It might also be the multitude saw him going, and many recognized him and ran there on foot from all the cities. They arrived before them and came together to him. Jesus came out, saw a great multitude, and he had compassion on them, because they were like sheep without a shepherd, and he began to teach them many things. When it was late in the day, his disciples came to him and said, "This place is deserted, and it is late in the day. Send them away, that they may go into the surrounding country and villages and buy themselves bread, for they have nothing to eat." But he answered them, "You give them something to eat." They asked him, "Shall we go and buy 200 denarii worth of bread and give them something to eat?" 200 denarii was about 7 or 8 months' wages for an agricultural laborer. Oof, big spend. He said to them, "How many loaves do you have? Go see." When they knew, they said, 5, and 2 fish. He commanded them that everyone should sit down in groups on the green grass. They sat down in ranks by hundreds and by 50s. He took the 5 loaves and the 2 fish, and looking up to heaven, he blessed and broke the loaves, and he gave to his disciples to set before them, and he divided the 2 fish among them all. They all ate and were filled. They took up 12 baskets full of broken pieces, and also of the fish. Those who ate the loaves were 5,000 men. Might be about 5,000 men. Immediately he made his disciples get into the boat and go ahead to the other side, to Bethsaida, while he himself sent the multitude away. After he had taken leave of them, he went up the mountain to pray. When evening had come, the boat was in the middle of the sea, and he was alone on the land. Seeing them distressed in rowing, for the wind was contrary to them, about the 4th watch of the night he came to them, walking on the sea. And he would have passed by them, but they, when they saw him walking on the sea, supposed that it was a ghost, and cried out, for they all saw him, and were troubled. But he immediately spoke with them, and said to them, "Cheer up, it is I, don't be afraid." Or, "I am." He got into the boat with them, and the wind ceased, and they were very amazed among themselves, and marveled, for they hadn't understood about the loaves, but their hearts were hardened. When they had crossed over, they came to land at Gennesaret, and moored to the shore. When they had come out of the boat, immediately the people recognized him, and ran around that whole region, and began to bring those who were sick on their mats to where they heard he was. Wherever he entered, into villages, or into cities, or into the country, they laid the sick in the marketplaces, and begged him that they might just touch the fringe of his garment, and as many as touched him were made well. Or tassel. So at the start of the chapter, it kind of seemed like the Sabbath is an opportunity to teach at the synagogue because no one is working. And I can kind of get behind, like, oh, let's set aside a day to, discuss our spiritual well-being, or like our mental, emotional well-being, our strategies for going forward, what happened last week, what's going to happen next week. I will say it doesn't have to be the same day for everybody. I think every little community should have kind of their own day to get together and do that. You might even do it multiple people, couple, different days for different groups that you overlap with. Why not? Shouldn't all be on the same day, because then we can't overlap at all. So I guess I would describe myself as anti-Sabbath. I think it's a limitation. I think having a day for, if you want to call it worship, fine, appreciation, gratitude, thought, meditation, all that kind of stuff, community, love. If you want to have a day for all that out of the week, yeah, I think that's a great idea. It doesn't have to be Sunday. And you can still work on that day. It's not like a magical day. It's just a good thing to do regularly, basically. You want to go outside now, sweetie pie? I'll be right back. And I'm a little bit confused about what they're saying. Like, where did this man get these things? What is the wisdom that is given to this man? Like, I understand them being confused by how he came about this. And to me, it seems like he just went out into the wilderness and thought about it for a while. But they seem offended that he's sharing knowledge that he came up with them. And I like what he says: a prophet is not without honor except in his own country and among his own relatives and in his own house. Because they've already heard what he has to say, and they're sick of it, I guess. Even though it is true. That's my guess. I really don't know. As for the fish and bread, I feel like that is just an exaggeration, or an illusion, or a fabrication. I don't think you could really feed 5,000 people, is that what it said down there? With five loaves and 2 fish. Yeah, that's not gonna feed 5,000 people unless they're giant. It doesn't specify the size. Maybe they were very large. And it's not hard to imagine, like, cutting the bread into tortillas or something, and making the fish go that far would be really hard, especially if there's just 2. So I don't know what the deal is there. I don't believe the miracle. I don't believe Jesus was magic, like divinely magic man. I believe he might have been magic in the sense that a stage magician is magic. But I like that he is, feeding the people who come to see him and just preaching, like telling everyone who will come and hear, which is a lot of people, what he thinks and his beliefs, his thoughts on the world, and given how attentive everyone is, he's probably onto something, and he's probably helping them just by sharing his perspective like that. Seems cool. Good guy. That's a thing we should do. Yay. Now let's go to the King James Version. And he went out from thence and came into his own country, and his disciples follow him. And when the Sabbath day was come, he began to teach in the synagogue, and many hearing him were astonished, saying, From whence hath this man these things? And what wisdom is this which is given unto him, that even such mighty works are wrought by his hands? Is not this the carpenter, the son of Mary, the brother of James and Joseph, and of Judah and Simon? Are not his sisters here with us? And they were offended at him. But Jesus said unto them, A prophet is not without honor, but in his own country, and among his own kin, and in his own house. And he could there do no mighty work, save that he laid his hands upon a few sick folk and healed them. And he marveled because of their unbelief. And he went round about the villages teaching. And he called unto him the 12, and began to send them forth by 2 and 2, and gave them power over unclean spirits, and commanded them that they should take nothing for their journey, save a staff only, no scrip, no bread, no money in their purse, but be shod with sandals, and not put on 2 coats. And he said unto them, In what place soever ye enter into an house, there abide till ye depart from that place. And whatsoever shall not receive you, nor hear you, when ye depart thence, shake off the dust under your feet for a testimony against them. Verily I say unto you, it shall be more tolerable for Sodom and Gomorrah in the day of judgment than for that city. And I don't like invoking Old Testament God as like it'll be even worse than that guy, because that guy was abusive, and now, Jesus, you're kind of being like your dad. You're continuing the cycle of abuse. Don't do that. It's time to stop that. And they went out and preached that men should repent, and they cast out many devils, and anointed with oil many that were sick, and healed them. And King Herod heard of him, for his name was spread abroad, and he said, That John the Baptist was risen from the dead, and therefore mighty works do show forth themselves in him. Others said, That is Elias. And others said, That is a prophet, or as one of the prophets. But when Herod heard thereof, he said, It is John, whom I beheaded. He is risen from the dead. For Herod himself had sent forth and laid hold upon John, and bound him in prison for Herodias' sake, his brother Philip's wife, for he had married her. For John had said unto Herod, It is not lawful for thee to have thy brother's wife. Therefore Herodias had a quarrel against him, and would have killed him, but she could not. For Herod feared John, knowing that he was a just man, and an holy and observed man. And when he heard him, he did many things, and heard him gladly. And when a convenient day was come, that Herod on his birthday made a supper to his lords, high captains, and chief estates of Galilee, and when the daughter of the said Herodias came in and danced and pleased Herod and them that sat with him, the king said unto the damsel, Ask of me whatsoever thou wilt, and I will give it thee. And he sware unto her, Whatsoever thou shalt ask of me, I will give it thee, unto the half of my kingdom. And she went forth, and said unto her mother, What shall I ask? And she said, The head of John the Baptist. And she came in straightway with haste unto the king, and asked, saying, I will that thou give me by and by in a charger the head of John the Baptist. And the king was exceedingly sorry, yet for his oath's sake, and for their sakes which sat with him, he would not reject her. And immediately the king sent an executioner, and commanded his head to be brought. And he went and beheaded him in the prison, and brought his head in a charger, and gave it to the damsel, and the damsel gave it to her mother. And when his disciples heard of it, they came and took up his corpse, and laid it in a tomb. And the apostles gathered themselves unto Jesus, and told him all things, both what they had done and what they had taught. And he said unto them, Come ye yourselves apart into a desert place, and rest a while, for there were many coming and going, and they had no leisure so much as to eat. And they departed into a desert place by ship privately. And the people saw them departing, and many knew him, and ran afoot thither out of all cities, and outwent them, and came together unto him. And Jesus, when he came out, saw much people, and was moved with compassion toward them, because they were as sheep not having a shepherd. And he began to teach them many things. And when the day was now far spent, his disciples came unto him, and said, This is a desert place, and now the time is far past. Send them away, that they may go into the country round about, and into the villages, and buy themselves bread, for they have nothing to eat. He answered and said unto them, Give ye them to eat. And they say unto him, Shall we go and buy 200 pennyworth of bread, and give them to eat? He saith unto them, How many loaves have ye? Go and see. And when they knew, they say, 5, and 2 fishes. And he commanded them to make all sit down by companies upon the green grass. And they sat down in ranks by hundreds and by 50s. And when he had taken the 5 loaves and the 2 fishes, he looked up to heaven, and blessed, and brake the loaves, and gave them to his disciples to set before them. And the 2 fishes divided he among them all. And they did all eat, and were filled. And they took up 12 baskets full of the fragments and of the fishes. And they that did eat of the loaves were about 5,000 men. And straightway he constrained his disciples to get into the ship, and to go to the other side before unto Bethsaida, while he sent away the people. And when he had sent them away, he departed into a mountain to pray. And when even was come, the ship was in the midst of the sea, and he alone on the land. And he saw them toiling and rowing, for the wind was contrary unto them. And about the 4th watch of the night he cometh unto them, walking upon the sea, and would have passed by them. But when they saw him walking upon the sea, they supposed it had been a spirit, and cried out. For they all saw him, and were troubled. And immediately he talked with them, and saith unto them, Be of good cheer, it is I, be not afraid. And he went up unto them into the ship, and the wind ceased, and they were sore amazed in themselves beyond measure, and wondered. For they considered not the miracle of the loaves, for their heart was hardened. And when they had passed over, they came into the land of Gennesaret, and drew to the shore. And when they were come out of the ship, straightway they knew him, and ran through that whole region round about, and began to carry about in beds those that were sick, where they heard he was. And whithersoever he entered, into villages or cities or country, they laid the sick in the streets, and besought him that they might touch, if it were but the border of his garment. And as many as touched him were made whole. So yeah, as far as him walking on water, again, either didn't happen, exaggeration, fabrication. Could have been walking on ice, could have been walking on a high part of the ground that's next to deeper parts where the boats were. I don't know. Hard to say without more information, without more details, without being there. Maybe it didn't even happen. So that's chapter 6 of Mark. I don't really know what to say. There's a couple of miracles that I don't really believe happened the way they are described. But I do like what Jesus is doing overall in helping people of all kinds, in curing diseases and sharing food. He seems to just want what's best for everybody, which is great. It's much better than God. God was a mysterious, opaque piece of shit, at least in Genesis. Maybe it got better later. Maybe we'll find out one day. So that's all I got for now. Next time, I guess I'll pick up in chapter 7, because I'm mostly enjoying Mark so far. It's a lot less disagreeable than Genesis. There's some good stuff in here. There's stuff that we can really, that modern people, I think, should apply to their daily lives a little bit more. So that's great. Thank you, Mark. Thank you, Purple Tiger, for suggesting which books of the Bible I look at. I plan to get to them all, but, realistically, I don't know that I'll have time to. So I really do appreciate giving me an order so that I can kind of see, not everything that the Bible has to offer, but at least some of the different tent poles or some of the main different points and perspectives. And thank you all for coming with me on this journey, whoever is here. It really means a lot to me that you are watching, and I hope that some good comes out of all of this. Thank you. Have a good day, and goodbye.